Good evening, friends. I am making a quick video to show you how I use tmux to move effectively between different projects, modules, etc. as I am working. This is a problem that everybody faces, I think, when they are a developer. And so I'm very curious also if you could share with me in the comments or in other videos how you have set up your system to be the most effective when having to deal with multiple code bases. This is not at all meant to be a comprehensive view of how I use tmux. Instead, it's supposed to inspire and give you ideas, and I'm happy to answer questions that you might have in future videos. But so the main components of my system are Zoxide, also known as Z. It is .tmux and T, which I borrowed from Craig Hurl. I will link to his video in the description. And then there is tmux-speeddial, which I based loosely upon kind of harpoonish ideas from Nevim, and TSP, which I use to quickly switch presets for my tmux-speeddial. So I'm not going to go into any details about Zoxide or tmux or T, because Greg Hurl already has a great video about the latter. What you need to know for now is that each project or module or service that I consider important enough to have its own tmux session has this .tmux file in it, which defines how that specific project, submodule, etc. should be opened inside tmux, and that I can open that at any time. For example, if I'm in .files and the tmux session is not running, I can run T, which will set up the .files projects as I like it, with Vim in the middle and the CLI, and if I want to run things like that. And if I disconnect and I run T again, it will attach to the same session. So that's all I was going to say about Zoxide and tmux. Let's move on to speeddial. So what speeddial does is it allows me to move between projects, for example, my notes and my .files, etc., with my Alt and number keys. It could be anything, but that's what I've used. And I have Alt T will allow me to show the list of speed dials. And this, for example, is for my project where I'm building a tiny app for my daughters to teach them some basic maths. And together with TSP, which is this thing, where I can change the model I'm currently using, I can change to Unspendy, which is a budgeting app I'm building for the family. I can open that up, and now I have different projects at the keys 1, 2 through 10. I usually keep the .files and the notes down here because I am used to those hotkeys, and the rest change depending on what I'm doing. This workflow has worked so well for me, and it's so handy that I wanted to share it for a really long time. But again, like in previous videos, because I'm working at a company, I cannot just go show the services and the code that we're using. So I will instead ask you to imagine that when I'm working, for example, with users in our system, I will have 4 or 5 services that I tend to touch all the time. And so I end up creating a lot of these presets for speeddial, such that Alt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes me to the services that I'm used to being in when I'm working with users. I have a different one when I'm working on the front end, for example. And that helps me move very quickly between the systems, and also to, for each environment, have it perfectly tailored to how I'm used to having it. And as soon as I'm done with one of them, I can just kill it. And that is how I move very quickly between the things I want to work on throughout the day. The code for this is all up on GitHub, and so you can find it in my bin folder in my .files. For example, TSP is right here, and the other one, TS, is actually a wrapper around tmux-speeddial, which is the other script I'm using. They rely on the concept of a local config, which you can define anywhere on the system. Mine is at just .config/jrasmusbm because that's my username. But in here I have a bunch of configurations that are particular to my system, and one part of it is the TS profile, which is the current profile that I'm using with TSP. And inside TS profiles in here, there is the profiles I created. And normally this folder of work is also inside of TS profiles, but that is why you're not seeing all those right now, is because I'm hiding them from you. So again, this is not meant to be an explanation of how to use these systems, but rather just an idea and inspiration for thinking about how to work effectively with the files and the projects and the modules, etc., that you're working with. I tell this to our kids all the time. What we do for work is we tell computers how we want them to behave. And one of the great perks with that is that we are allowed to tell our computers how we want them to behave for us. And with that final thought, I'll see you all next time. And as you might be able to tell by the lighting in this video, it took a lot longer to make than it took to watch. I'm still really learning this stuff. So thank you for watching and have a great week.